Hi, my name is Kate Halligan, and this is Module 8. This speech is about social change and behavior. The first question that we're going to talk about, it says that society changed over the past decade from style to language or even environmental resources. Give an example how social change has affected physical environment, population, innovation, diffusion, and mass media. I first want to start off with that change can happen either naturally, by like a natural disaster, like a hurricane, or intentionally, war, a mass shooting. Those are things that are intentionally happen that change socially, it change our aspects of life. One major social change would be war and ethnic conflict. When a war happens, as you know, people die. When there's death, that changes people's social aspects. It changes the way they live. They're mourning their loved ones. There are many deaths of soldiers and civilians, and it's very heartbreaking for both sides of it. The people that risked their lives and didn't make it out alive, and the people that are innocent bystanders in the wrong place. It doesn't just affect loved ones, it affects our whole nation. We're taking many people away from their family, their loved ones. The mass amount of different facilities need to compensate. Nurses and all those type of people are getting a lot of PTSD patients and other things like that from war. World War I is something that caused the economy to worsen, and as the economy got worse, it allowed for Hitler to come and rise, because we were at a very low point during that time, and then it caused Hitler to gain power, and people backed him, and it was a terrible time when Hitler was in charge. The environment, some things like air pollution, it kills thousands of Americans every year, and it also kills 2 million across the planet. Some good things, social changes with environment, is agricultural advancements. Things like irrigation, so when there's flooding, they know what to do with it, how crops are grown, things like that. And along with the cotton gin, instead of people picking the cotton, there's different tools in order for cotton to be properly handled. And children are absorbing more than we have because they're younger. They're allowed to absorb more. They have the capacity to absorb more, which really causes lots of issues down the line, more deaths and things like that. Climate change. Fossil fuels are a huge thing that cause climate change. Gases in the atmosphere cause the earth to be warm. Water pollution. As we know, in America, we are very lucky to have clean water, but third world countries are not. So, drinking some of this water is very unsafe, and it's not very sanitized. In poor nations, they're drinking water that's killing them, that's causing other infections and disease to go on, and that's why there's so much infection in those third world countries, and they can never get ahead. Technology helped with globalization. It helped change food products. It helped show us how we grow food. Some of the downfalls, it divides us locally and globally, because here we are able to have all these technical advancements, whereas in third world countries we cannot. The privacy is gone. People are constantly looking at us, watching our every move. People are obsessed with technology now. People are dependent on it. I don't think a lot of people know how to get around without their phone getting them around. And another huge thing is like technology can be attacked, and I feel like a lot of people forget that. If someone from a different country attacks us technologically, they could get a lot of material that we don't want them having. A great example of technology is a car. When it first came out, it was a huge thing, and social change slowly diversed it, meaning it got faster, different colors, different sizes, the power of the car. That was a good social change, but you can see how it started as one thing and it diversed to many things. Population, it changes society at every level. It increases one and decreases in another. There is a huge knowledge gap between the boomers, the people that are now retiring, and our generation. Those people were the leaders. They found a way to succeed in life, and they're gone, and there's a huge gap on how they were raised and how they were so successful and how we are struggling to be so successful as they were. Social change is happening because they are retiring. One example is taxpayer dollars went to school boards for expenses due to the growth in population, and then we created debt in other areas because we were compensating for the schools and everything like that. Diffusion is a rate for population adopting new services and goods. So example would be like, here in America, we have birth control. It's been around a very long time. Then having that in a third world country. The second question, the information revolution still is an important perspective in social change. In your opinion, how has it changed society, and what you feel it would change society in the future? This first came out after World War II. It showed idealism and progress. It created emails, online commerce. It helped improve lives. It helped economics. It became focused, though, around machines. I do think that it was very helpful. We've come a long way, but I do think that we are so consumed by these products. It is easier to talk to people and communicate with people, but it also allows for people to just be on their phone or on their computer instead of actually talking with the people around them. People have lost focusing on who they're with and more consumed with what's on their phone, and that's really sad. Question 3, how has modernization changed many underdeveloped nations? Modernization moves from an area or agrarian to industrial society, larger role of government with society. It allows for a large formal organization to divide based off of their skills. Social institutions for behavior is to be regulated, more laws for regulation of behavior. It improves the quality of life. It allows for the ability to adapt, desire continuous change, like change in government, and allows for change in occupation and careers. So back then, you basically knew what you were going to be. You knew because what your parents were, and there was no room to grow. There was no room to try new things, and I think modernization definitely helped with people being whatever they wanted to be, and it was a very good thing. Now, do I think we've come far enough? No, but I do think that people are allowed to do more than they were in the past, and I think that's a great thing. Some examples of that. So the third world, they are dependent on countries that are further along and more established. So third world countries are depending on us and other first world countries to help them out, because they don't know any better. They don't know the difference unless we tell them. They are in their own world and until we bring light to something, they probably don't know what it is. Traditional societies do have a hard time to develop modern values. It helps promote change and growth. Some examples of that would be hygiene. So in Africa, I was there for a couple weeks, and you would not imagine how many people were just pooping on the sidewalk, and then people were walking in it, and then those shoes were going in their house, and then they're touching it, and then they're eating, and they're not showering, or you're wiping yourself, and then you're putting your feces into a trash can, and then it's just sitting there. And people don't really understand hygiene, and they're dumping their poop and feces into the stream, and then they're using that same stream for water, just at a different part, and they don't realize or comprehend how bad that is. So a lot of people have come a long way in helping them, but I still think they have a lot to come. Some barriers for modernization include lack of infrastructure, lack of technology, political instability, and honestly, I do believe that more wealthy countries do need to help poor ones, but political instability, I think, is a huge role, because you have Americans get third world countries' political people in line, and you help them understand, and then something goes wrong, and then it's someone else, and they're like, well, no, why would we need that? And so I think that's a very hard thing, because there's not a structure system, and I think that causes a lot of issues. And if those countries were more stable all around them, us helping would keep progressing forward, instead of taking 5 steps forwards and then 15 steps back, and it's like we're restarting constantly, and it makes it hard for us to want to keep trying. Lastly, what are some types of social movements that have occurred, and when did they occur? One of the ones I found was PETA. PETA focuses on how we treat animals, and it first started off just how people didn't want to eat them anymore, so we have a term called veganism. But it's not just that. PETA helps with beauty lines that are still using on animals, and they don't understand how hard and what's wrong with that. And so this movement was to advocate for not only the animals, but how the people are treating them, and making sure that that animals aren't being harmed. Now, do I think that we should all stop eating meat? No, I think there's a proper way of growing meat, but I don't think we should be using it for products and makeup products and things like that. That movement started March 22nd, 1980. And then lastly, the women's movement of 1960. Everyone knows that women back then didn't have the right to speak. Basically, they didn't have the right to vote. They barely had a job. Basically, they were just in charge of keeping the house clean and taking care of the kids and making sure there was dinner on the table for their husband when they got home. And so this movement was in the 1960s, has been going on for a very long time. There's actually different steps to feminism, but this was the first real part of it. So these women, worked for equal rights for women. They wanted to have the right to vote. They wanted to have the right to say things. They wanted the right to own their own property. Overall, they just wanted to be just as important as men are. And that is the end of this discussion.